you are and however you are listening, thank you for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. Today we have Danita Young, and you are not going to believe the wealth of knowledge she has around health. She gives us some incredible tips. We talk about Ozempic. You're going to want to hear that. And most importantly, if you stay to the end, she's got a special promotion for you with promo code WINNING7 at danitayoung.com. But you're going to have to listen to the whole episode to see what you get for that. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. And most importantly, enjoy the episode. Thank you for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. Today, I have Danita Young with me, and she has 20 years of empowering women to look and feel their best from the inside and out. And I'm excited to get into the details of that today. But Danita, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I would love to start, because if you go to Danita's Instagram, you'll see a tile that's got your before picture and then your current picture. And so I feel like that must be where the journey started for you in learning about fat loss and fitness and the holistic approach. And so what was like your catalyst to get going?
10 years of struggle, right? I feel like it all comes down to where that failure moment was. And it was mistake after mistake after mistake. And finding that no matter what I was trying, it just wasn't working. And I feel like often we come into new tools that allows us to say, hey, why don't you look at a bigger picture?
Yeah. And were you in pursuit of weight loss at that time, or was it like overall fitness? Like, what was your goal looking back at that time?
Goal at that time was to lose weight. However, I had an eating disorder. So I was thinking about like the starving mentality, calories in, calories out to try to get there.
Yeah.
But yet it was always backfiring. I was getting bigger rather than smaller.
Interesting. Why is that?
Because when you are thinking of a calorie deficit world, what you're doing is you're not balancing out your protein levels. So most people become protein deficient. And then what you're doing is then you're starving your lean muscle tissue. And that is the most metabolically active tissue in your body. So you basically slow your metabolism down when you're just focusing on the typical weight loss ways.
Oh, yeah, my wife always tells me I got to eat more.
It's a true story.
Interesting. It's so confusing, right? Because you think like naturally, like, oh, if I eat less, it's going to be better for my journey. But so at that time in your life, were you into fitness and stuff? Did you have the knowledge you have now, or did you discover it and kind of self-directed and get to where you've been helping women now for 20 years?
Yeah, I was obsessed. It was only just for myself. It was just an obsession to just, obviously for women, it's a big thing to look a certain way. And then when you're fighting for it for so long and you can't seem to break free of this thing, then you get really passionate about it. And so then it went into doing a bikini competition and finding a whole new way of looking at health and fitness, and then never did that again because that brought you to the other extreme, right? There's extremes.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, that's not the route I want to go as an extreme. And then I, with finding, I guess you could say balance with both of those two is where I said, oh boy, do women really need to know this information?
Yeah, that's interesting. You brought up the bikini competition because my wife has like talked about doing it. I know she has friends that do it, and it's like crazy. They're eating like chicken and broccoli out of a bag on the beach or just like crazy stuff, because they're trying to get to that perfect look for that 1 hour show or however long it is. I know it's quite a lot of work to do that.
Oh yeah. It's 3 months and you're eating like 6 times a day.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So you look at these really thin, sculpted people thinking, oh, they're barely eating. No, 6 times a day. I was begging my coach to not eat that much. And he said, absolutely not.
That is so fascinating. So you did that. You did your bikini competition. And then you realized that's not like a way for longevity. Is that kind of how you'd say it?
Yeah, you were comparing your body against another woman's body up on stage.
Yeah, that's kind of a mental problem, isn't it?
And I was like, I would rather compliment, not compare. And I want to be able to turn around with these tools and share it with women. And so I used it as more of a information gathering and how I could take myself to my level to then turn around to help others.
Well, what's so interesting too is, especially for the people now, because like I think of my daughter, she's 10. And so she has all these obstacles as far as perception goes that didn't exist like at my time because they didn't even have that stuff yet. But you've got Instagram and TikTok and all of those things that are portraying a particular look. And it's like, I can't imagine And I don't know that men deal with it in the same way that women do, because it's not like a thing that I really think too much about. But I know for my daughter already at 10, she'll reference and talk about things. And so it's like, man, I feel like the holistic health journey is so much mental as it is physical.
Yeah, think about it. It's a transformation.
Yeah, right.
And so for any of us to have a transformation, we have to look at what is really required for the main steps of any transformation. All of life is metaphoric. If we can use it for fitness, we can use it in business, we can use it in relationship.
Well, what's funny is even for me, I've lost over 40 pounds a couple different times, right? Because like I'll do something that works really good, and then I feel like I have the freedom to just now do what I want to do. So eventually, it takes time, but eventually you get back there. And that's actually what started the book, Winning the Moment, is the end of 2018. And is the biggest I've ever been. And I was like, damn it, why can't I show up for myself in the same way I show up for others? Because like if I had a boss that said, you got to be at work at 6 a.m., I'd show up at 5:50, Or if I had a friend who was like, hey, let's go to the gym, we're going to be there at 7, I will be there. But if he texts me and says he's not going, I'm not going to go either. And so I realized like, why can't I do it for myself? I can do it professionally or for anyone else really, but I could never do it for myself. And so I started a spreadsheet measuring all the things that mattered to me. So like, did I exercise the goals 4 times a week? Did I read? Did I drink alcohol or not? Did I meditate? And it was like the simple yes or no. And that little bit of like reward allowed me to like, okay, I'm not going to do it because I've got to fill in the spreadsheet. So I did that for all of 2019, lost like 40 pounds again. And I felt great, looked great, mentally, physically, the whole thing. And then COVID hit and I like reverted all of it back. And that's when I was like, man, I need to take those decisions and make them smaller, because instead of saying like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym for the next 30 days, it was like, no, I'm going to go to the gym today. And like, I can just make that one decision versus trying to make this forever decision, because I'm not good at that.
Simple equals doable. Doable hits the dopamine. Dopamine creates the consistency, creates the habits, creates the results. So you're right. 100% comes down to simplicity. And often we are, as high achievers, want to be able to keep adding to our to-do list and making it so complicated and overwhelmed. But going back to even the people pleaser, so what I've really learned is that as we understand ourselves is where we can understand how to reach our success. So if we are a people pleaser, like you mentioned, I can be there for other people, but I can't be there for myself. So why do we see value in everybody else, but not within ourselves? And so when you're able to go to back in order then to really move forward is when we can accomplish so much more and really understand where the root cause of where this is.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, it's so interesting too. You brought up the dopamine, because that's what these bracelets are meant to represent. You make a decision, you win the moment, you move a bracelet. And so that's giving me that dopamine. So I'm like training my mind like, ooh, that was a good thing. Just like a to-do list where if you do something that's not on it, you want to write that thing down just so you can cross it off and feel good. And so oftentimes, like for me, in the middle of the day, I might want a pick-me-up of some sort. So I'll go into the break room, I'll look around, and like maybe there's a Snickers or a cookie, and I'm like, oh, that's what I need. And so I'll eat it, and then instantly I'm back at my desk like, damn it, why did I just eat that fucking Snickers? Like I don't even want it. I just wanted the dopamine the Snickers gave me. So the idea with winning the moment is now I can just move a bracelet, and I'm going to replace the dopamine the Snickers got with that simple behavior, and then I don't have the regret.
I love that. I think that's such a great way to retrain your mind and reprogram yourself of where our dopamine is coming from. Because our dopamine can be from our phone, or our dopamine can be achieving and accomplishing. And so what you're training is you're training the dopamine to be coming from a healthier standpoint rather than Snickers bars and
endless scrolling on social media. It's so good that you say that, because all dopamine isn't the same. Right? The reason there's endless scrolls on TikTok is because dopamine, and you can just get stuck and lost in it, right? And so you're so right that you have to retrain your brain to have that dopamine be a positive in your life and not a net negative, like so many things can be. Because there's a lot of things that give us dopamine that aren't good for us.
Yeah, it's interesting if we really think about how we wake up in the day and what we're saying to ourselves and how we are in the moment and winning these moments. We are either stacking upon a feeling of failure, or we're stacking on a feeling of accomplishment. I'll give you an example really quick by this. I have a client that she goes, yeah, I just can't seem to be consistent. I just can't seem to accomplish my goals. I just really need habits and I need a routine. And I just call bullshit on all that. So
Yeah.
because if I give you a routine, what's going to happen is it lasts for maybe a week or two, and then we're back to square one, same thing, gaining back the weight over and over. So I asked her, I said, how do you wake up in the morning? She goes, well, I wake up and usually I just want to lay there for a little bit. And so I start telling myself, oh, I should be up right now. I should be working out, but I just want to lay here. So then I just start calling myself, I'm lazy. And then if I'm lazy, then I just feel like, well, then why would I want to do a workout if I'm already kind of beating myself up? So it starts to mold the rest of the entire day when we're building and stacking these type of thoughts and feelings about ourselves. And when I listen to her routine, I go, well, that's interesting because I heard that you were bonding with your husband. You said a prayer to God and you leaned over and you just had a sip of water. Now I'm seeing something that's completely different. So if you really see that life is perspective and you can either be winning the moment or destroying the moment, and it's all based off of what you are setting yourself up for, success or failure. So if I start off my day with a sip of water and gratitude, I go, boom, that's two things I already did. And if I can keep stacking those things, you become unstoppable.
Yeah. That's it. Well, momentum works in whatever direction you're headed, right? So in that story, she told negative momentum. And so that's the direction her momentum's headed. And what's so funny is what you just talked about is basically the morning of winning the moment. It's acknowledging those little things and deciding those are positives. Mm-hmm. My alarm went off. I got up. Mel Robbins' 5-second rule is basically the same thing. Mm-hmm. Alarm goes off. She shoots out of bed, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make a decision before your mind can change it. And the thing is, we as humans want to be right. And so if you think to yourself like, oh, I'm lazy, then your mind's like, okay, well, if that's what you want, then we'll just recognize these habits as lazy, as opposed to like, I want to be thoughtful and I'm going to have a thoughtful morning with my husband, right? You can change the way you feel about the exact same activity based on how you frame it. And I think that there's so much negative thought that goes into people's minds and it's so intrusive to their success and they're not even aware of it. Mm-hmm. They have no idea that just the way that they're, and I tell people it sucks because it's like I had this client yesterday who said, how do I get more traffic on my website? I said, well, I have a shitty answer for you, but spend more money on ads. Like if you spend more on ads, you're going to get more traffic. You want me to give you some magic elixir that's free and will get you traffic. It just doesn't work that way. It's the same way with our thoughts. If you want to have a better life, think better thoughts. But it seems too easy. And if you're stuck in depression or a non-positive place, you don't want to believe that you're the cause of that, or that it could be as simple, because obviously rationally if it was that simple they would just do it. It just sadly it is that simple.
Yeah, I think there's different things in order. I mean, we go into the subconscious or even just like neuroplasticity for just a moment, right? Because that's really where, if you think about reprogramming the mind, sometimes you have to really understand where it comes from. And it comes from where I've been in my world is that as little children, we start off in this very egocentric world, that everything is about us. Yeah. That's what kids are. And so if your mom is yelling at the dog, but you're in the same room, that little kid is going to think mom's mad and I'm in the same room. There's something, it's my fault. And that's how we have these little plastic brains. We absorb all this information as a child, making it mean something about us. Yeah. And so we come into these belief systems of I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm not beautiful enough, whatever it is. And then from there is our starting point. If we can go on a 1 to 10 scale, rate ourselves and find out where our starting point is. And then the next step is separate it. What's true? You're in that ego world. But the older we get, we start to realize that if we go to the gym, people aren't thinking about us, they're thinking about themselves, right? And so you start to separate like what's not versus what is. And then you go into, well, what's truth? And when you start stepping into your truth of who you really are is really where that transformation can come from for people, is that neuroplasticity begins to go, is it possible I'm actually good enough this entire time? And then it can, because the subconscious is 95% of us.
100%. It makes all of our decisions. You drove here today, you never thought about it. You just did it.
But the conscious wants to be positive. But how do we get there? We get there by observing that the subconscious is thoughts that lead into feelings, emotions, that lead in and drive all of our actions, and all of our actions create all of our outcome. So everything stems from our beliefs. And as soon as we're able to have our true beliefs of ourselves, automatically what's going to happen is we're going to naturally start feeling better.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're completely right. That's ultimately part of the reason why I added the bracelet component, is to bring our conscious into play. Because so much of our day is subconscious that you're never like tapping in and actually being there. And so the idea behind the bracelet is like, bring your conscious into play of your day. You know, let it participate in what's actually happening and feel like you're driving your life versus your life driving you. Because it's really just switching between your subconscious and conscious. And it's so funny what you said about the gym, because my wife, she's always done classes, like that's her jam. But we just got a Summit membership and she's been like once. She's like, I'm just so self-conscious. I said, Meg, no one gives a shit what you're doing at the gym. Like, everyone there has their own agenda for themselves and they're not even aware that you're there. Like, you could be doing some weird exercise. They're not going to care, you know? But I think that stops so many people because the fear.
Well, also, let's say somebody is judging you. Let's just play devil's advocate for a minute. And if somebody is judging you, they're really judging their own effing self, you guys. Like energy attracts like energy. Everything is a reflection of our world. So if somebody sees someone and goes, wow, they're so beautiful, and look at them just accomplishing all their goals, that's an inner reflection of how they see and view themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are going to be judgmental people. Let's just face the facts. But just know that they're beating them own selves up more than they are with you.
100%. It's like when you get a nasty comment on YouTube or Instagram, it's like, that's a reflection of them. That's not your shit. That's their shit. You know, you can't solve their shit for them. You can't let it burden you.
Oh yeah. That was a really hard lesson for me to learn. And I hope everybody learns that lesson. Put yourself out there and get rejected. It is so good for us to get rejected, truly, because then you're actually going to see, if you really look at that person, they might be suicidal.
Yeah.
They might just lost their family pet. They might have just lost their dad. And you realize that really the depth of us, the hardships that we go through, is where we're all bonded. We're all the effing same, you guys.
Yeah.
It all is.
Absolutely.
You're not alone. We're all going through the same thing.
Well, and I think you're so right that you don't know what's going on in someone else's life. So and then whatever thoughts we do have about what they said to us, then we're telling our own stories and we're making up in our mind like, oh, well, this asshole or da-da-da, you know, and you don't know what they could be going through. So it's like, give them a little bit of grace.
Yeah. I always look at it like this. Hurt people.
Yeah. Well, there's a book, The Four Agreements, one of the best books ever. And I can't remember what he said, but it's like, don't take anything personally, good or bad, right? So someone's like, oh, you're the most amazing. It's like, don't let that feed your ego to a point that it becomes unhealthy. You just say, thank you. You know, if they say, oh, you're the worst, it's like, oh, thank you. You know, don't take either one too personally.
I agree, but I'm going to disagree. So here's my thought on that. I agree, and I love that book too, is that I think that we should have a truth place of our belief systems, meaning like, I do believe that I am good enough.
Yeah.
I do believe that I am beautiful and worthy and deserving. Now, if somebody tells me, now it's a bonus.
Sure.
Wow. I don't need it because I don't have a void in my life.
You're not letting them validate who you are. You've already decided, and that can either confirm or go against what you believe about yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So now I added it as a bonus. That's cool, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
But I also know that if you say something like, I'm not beautiful, whatever, et cetera, I would just say, what's really going on with you?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think that's great. I think too many people put their value on other people's perceptions, and you're never going to get where you want to be if you're not the driver of that. I think it was, I just heard someone the other day, oh gosh, who was it? Someone who's done a lot of amazing stuff, and they said, anything, it might have been Elon Musk, and he said, anything that goes wrong at the company, I've got to make it about me, no matter how far removed I am from the thing, because if it's not about me, I can't fix it. And I love that, because especially being in sales and having sales reps that would always blame the lack of their success on some outside force. And so I'd always have to tell them, like, look, I can't even help you if that's true, because you're saying that you're perfect and every pitch is awesome. Your energy's always great. You look great. You're ready for the day, and everyone's not buying for some other outside force. So if you're perfect, I can't help you. But if you said, gosh, I'm in a rut mentally, I don't know how to open, I'm struggling with close. Well, now we can work somewhere because you owned it. And I think that's oftentimes the difference, especially in sales. I always found that the difference between the high performers and the low performers was accountability to themselves.
I agree with that because when you see a victim mentality,
Yeah.
what are they ultimately trying to do is they're trying to cover up the parts of them that they feel the most weak.
Yeah.
So they're in a vulnerable state where obviously everyone knows, but deep down, if they're covering it up, it's to avoid that feeling of, oh, maybe I'm not so perfect.
Yeah, and they think they can hide it like you don't know. But it's like, dude, I already know you're showing up to work and you're hungover and you're not bringing your best. Like, we all know, you can pretend to hide it, but we can see it. Mm-hmm. So tell me about, for your process. So now you've had all that experience, you did it for yourself, and now you're doing it for others.
Yep.
So what does that look like? If someone is listening and they're like, and fat loss, is that your main thing? Or...
Fat loss is the main thing. You have to meet people with where they're at and
Sure.
later on give them what they need.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can come at saying, I'm a weight loss coach, but in the back end, I would be a root healer.
Okay. I love that. So if someone is interested in that, what's the process look like with you?
First step is I do an assessment on them and just kind of really meet them where they're at, check hormones, check metabolism, check their habits, where their beliefs are at about themselves.
Are you doing like blood tests or?
No, this is being able to just rate themselves because a blood test can come back and say, oh, everything looks normal. Well, normal means that they're taking your age based off of the numbers saying that you're passing, which is like D- in anyone's book. But for me, if you're giving me a list of all of the symptoms you're having, there's a problem. And so what I do is take a look at that and find out which of the 11 of the body systems are flailing, are saying, hey, look at me. And then we say, hey, out of 3 out of your 11 of your systems of your body are dysregulated. And we know that there's an interconnected system within our entire body. So if the nervous system hasn't had tools to operate in what's called our parasympathetic and be able to come from that rest and digest present, then our digestive doesn't have a chance. And then our hormones and our absorption of our calories and everything else. Everyone can focus on nutrition all day long. But if you're coming from a state of fight, flight, freeze, well, then you're just raising cortisol levels and that raises your blood sugar levels without you even eating.
Wow.
So you have to look at the full picture and look at the interconnected. And that's what I would do first off, is just meet you where you're at.
I love that. So you're making it individualized for each person based on whatever they're trying to do, where they're at currently, what their goals are.
Yeah, how else do you have success? By throwing cookie cutter programs on people and say, follow this plan, follow that plan. And maybe it works for some people, but why not meet people exactly where they're at and give them these next stepping stone that they specifically need for their success?
And how long is someone usually like in your program for?
2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months. Okay. And then you've given them the tools to basically self-sustain, essentially. Is that the goal, that they basically are graduating and now it's like, now you know how to do it? Go do it.
I make you the expert.
Yeah. I love that because I think that any profession where it's like, oh, you got to stick with me forever is always dangerous, because then you as the company are incentivized for a little bit of their lack of success because you want to keep them forever. So knowing that you eventually graduate them on, I think that's really empowering. It
is, because the world freaking needs that. I mean, to continue to keep selling a program that just only brings out more and more brokenness from people.
Yeah.
Holy cow, there's so much more growth that we can make when we accomplish weight loss. The next is, think about your career now with all this confidence. Do you want to quit your job or do you want to go be something that your gift of what you're really meant to go become?
Yeah, it's amazing what happens. You start to make a transformation in one part of your life, how it gives you the power to do it in others. You feel better, you look better, you can do more. It's really an empowering thing. I
agree. It is very empowering, and it's the ripple effect. And with that ripple effect, if anyone that's listening has children, your children are seeing this ripple effect. They're either seeing you're going downhill or you're going uphill. And you're either contracting your energy or you're expanding your energy. Truly. Oh,
100%. I was listening to an episode the other day, and this gentleman was talking. He said he's very fit, and he said, look, fitness gives you a presence in a room. Like, you can walk into a room, someone may not know if you're rich or not, but they're going to know if you're fit or not. And everyone values that and respects that. And they look at you and they say, that's a hardworking person. That's a person with goals. That's a person with discipline. And you get an instant appreciation and respect when you walk around a certain way and you have that fitness. You always notice it. I notice dads, man, that dad's fit, like it's like, dang, he's doing it right. And so it does give you that. You stand a little taller, you feel a little bit better. And then again, it's just the mental game. And then then you start to feel that way about yourself. And so even though a decision at work may not be related to your fitness directly, you will make a better decision because you now have more confidence and belief in yourself.
Yeah, confidence is huge. It really is such a big one that keeps us putting one foot in front of the other or not. But I mean, and also, I love playing devil's advocate for a moment. I don't even know if I like that word, but just like I like to just play the room here a little bit. For those that are listening that would say, okay, well, yeah, I've been trying to be that most fit person to walk in the room and own the room. And I know that, I know, et cetera. But what I think too is sometimes we can go to those levels of extremes. Sometimes we can have that bodybuilder walk in the room and we're like, wow, bro, all you do is spend 5 hours in the gym. Where else are you?
That's funny. He actually said not a bodybuilder. He's like, not a massively fit person, just like a regularly fit person, not like steroids, like I'm in the gym for 7 hours a day, just a fit individual.
But what's interesting is we can get in our own heads thinking that's the point we need to be.
Sure.
Rather than just going, man, you look really good, just being in that place of balance, just being fit, not being this jacked bodybuilder has to own the room that way. And so, I just think that finding that middle of it.
Well, I had another friend who does like men's fitness stuff, and he did like a photo shoot and he was ripped and chiseled and had abs, and he was like, dang. And he was like, dude, I don't look like that. I don't walk around that way. He was like, that was 3 weeks of like cutting, and then 72 hours of nothing. He's like, that's not my walk around body. And but you don't know that if you're not in it. So you see it and you're like, oh, I don't look anything like that. It's like, well, he doesn't actually look like that either. That was a window of time when he did all of this work specifically to look that way for this thing.
Exactly. Bikini competitors, what are they doing? They are dehydrating themselves to jump up on stage for that hour long to get that perfect photo, and then they walk away from it. Or just even highlight reels, right? So look at all the highlight that everybody shows of their life. But if you go to the grocery store, where are these people?
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to see the whole done up, everything's perfect if you're just running to Smith's to grab some stuff for dinner. You know what I mean?
Talk about real life. Yeah. It's just funny. Like, I remember just like thinking, man, looking through Instagram, everybody in the world is just got it together and they're just beautiful and they're flawless and there's not even anything out of place. And then I'll go to the grocery store and I'm like, what is going on with you guys? You guys still have your slippers on. That's actually me. But like, you guys haven't even got out of your PJs yet. Holy cow, what is up with us? And so it's just such a weird dynamic.
It's true. Yeah, there's two different realities. Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit about this off camera, but I got to ask about it because this is certainly in this space of weight loss, and that's Ozempic. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think of that.
Ozempic, semaglutides, there's a bunch of them that are coming out and they're just going to get bigger. They're just going to get more massive from what I can see. And what they're doing is they're using fear to have people jump on these because they're saying, oh, you're pre-diabetic. And so now we need to go ahead and get you into a synthetic way or prescription.
I haven't heard people actually use the diabetics as the reason. I thought people were just getting like the skinny shot, like no diagnosis, just, oh, take this and
fear. They're coming in and they're, pretty much anybody could be pre-diabetic. I mean, you come in, like most anybody can be like pre-diabetic in this moment. They're just like, you're pre-diabetic. We're just going to throw you on this thing. So it's a lot of fear that's jumping into it on that. But ultimately what I see from my space of being in this for 20 years is that when we lose weight, we're losing the three things: water, fat, muscle. And anytime we're losing muscle, we're just slowing down our metabolism, which means we're always caught in that yo-yo. We're gaining the weight back every single time. And so to me, anything weight loss doesn't work. It works for somebody that's in their 20s because they have the mostly muscle mass on their body in their 20s. Okay. But after 30, we are declining with our muscle mass. And so if we're not doing anything to change that, then what we're finding ourselves is caught in that little hamster wheel over and over and over again. So semaglutide, what is that ultimately doing is backfiring on people because now you are stuck to a cost of pills for the rest of your entire life, and you have no idea what the side effects of that will even be long term.
Yeah, that's a scary thing for me of people who are doing it. It's just like we don't even, because it was originally created for this other like actual purpose. And now you're using it for this thing it's not intended for. It just happens to have the side effect that you like. But we don't even know what's going to do to your gut in 10 years.
And who's behind this, making all this money that's just shoving it out there because of a money grab?
How did it even get to the market? Do you know? Like, what's the story behind this like thing just pop? Because it's been out, I feel like for a year, people have been talking about the skinny shot, would be about my estimation from what I can remember. It's like, where did it come from? How did it, a celebrity probably did it?
I think back to what you were saying, I think it was originally used for something else. And then they found, oh, this kind of helps people lose weight. I mean, I actually am not sure exactly. I like to stay clear away from it. And so anybody that's on it, I'm just like, dude, you're in that pharmaceutical world, man. And then guess what? You want to go have some beers on top of that. Now you're mixing alcohol with pharmaceutical. I mean, what do you want to do, man? Do you really want to just like live your whole life on a pill?
Yeah, that's not really health. That's just weight loss. It's not a place to be.
Yeah. And then also think about it, like a transformation. It's so when you have a transformation and can get to that version of yourself, like you were saying, like you walk into a room, you can own it, you're confident.
Yeah.
Things like this is all just a ripple effect.
Right.
And it dominoes into the other areas of your life. But if you're stopping yourself with this and you're putting Band-Aids on the problem, you're not really getting to that true transformation to take you to the evolution you really need to go to.
Yeah, I think medicine is scary in that way that it is a Band-Aid, right? So it's like even if you're struggling with your mental health and if you're even on medication for that, it's like I would encourage everyone to work. If you need it, that's okay, but work to get out of it. Don't live your life requiring some sort of drug to be able to get through it.
It really is a Band-Aid. And I agree. For those that are saying, hey, I really need this Band-Aid at this moment because I do not have the tools.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. But search for the tools. I swear they're out there. There's people that want to give them. Once you have the tools to understand your subconscious, once you have the tools to walk you through things called fear or anxiety or stress, once you know how to get out of that, you do not need these prescription medications. You don't.
Yeah, I mean, our body was designed to be able to operate itself, right? And I feel like if my body puts on weight, then my body has the ability to take the weight off, because ultimately, whatever my body does to itself, it can undo to itself too, as long as you're doing the right things.
Yeah, it's under eating is probably one of the biggest things I see, is that we are getting so busy and we are just caught up in the idea of eat less, move more. What happens is most people become malnourished. That's where the cravings kick in. That's where I want to hurry up and grab something because now hormones are activated. But if we just fed our bodies for the fuel that it really needs, then all these protection mechanisms start to turn off. And our body does start to burn the fat how it needs to. And it's a lot faster than what we think it is.
I just had a friend yesterday tell me, and you can tell me if you know if this is true or not, but he asked me if I wear sunglasses. I said, yes. He goes, do you know that if you don't wear sunglasses, you won't get sunburned because our eyes like can feel the sun's heat, and then it does like, I don't know what it does, but he's like, it activates something in you to know like, oh, we got to protect ourselves. And so he doesn't wear sunglasses. He never gets sunburned. I don't know if there's a science behind that, but it seemed interesting.
It's interesting you bring that up. I just have been really geeking out on it's Dr. Jack Kruse, Kruse. Phenomenal. He is a neurosurgeon that has spent about 30 years of his life just diving into how eyes are the first step to our health, and then into our brain, and then it goes into our mitochondria, and it's on such a cellular level what it's doing for us. Even just our circadian rhythm, to our energy levels, to our dopamine, serotonin, all of this is all connected. And so when we're wearing sunglasses, we're not really actually getting the rays of the UVB and the UVA lights to come in. And what it does is it creates a DC current within our body to then start rejuvenating mitochondria and create cell returnover, so that we're having all these wonderful, amazing things happen on a root level.
So he is right.
Oh, yes. It is. And it's getting bigger and bigger. I highly recommend checking out that Dr. Kruse. He is showing that the very beginning of the day and the very end of the day, to have that light coming into your eyes, how beneficial it truly is for your overall health. And he's lost like 77 pounds just because of just light.
Wow. Well, are you familiar with Gary Barreca? Do you know him? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on him?
I I follow him on Instagram, and is he the one that does a lot of like the quotes, like the positivity quotes?
Well, and he did so he's a big believer, like the first thing you got to do in the morning is get your feet in the grass, get sunlight on your body, big on breathing. So Dana White, the president of UFC, I was like super obese, diabetic, like all of these things, went to the doctors, kept subscribing. And then he met Gary Brecka and he's like, you don't need any of that. Like get in the sun, breathe right. Do, what is it? Is it red light? Red light therapy. Do that. Do your cold plunge. Like do your breathing. Do all of this. And now Dana White's like lost all his weight and he's not diabetic anymore. And like drink hydrogen water. He's big on hydrogen water.
So I'll tell you the reason why that works. Because of where I've been for the last 20 years and seeing weight loss with people, is the number one thing is that their nervous system is out of whack.
That makes sense.
So we only have two states we can be in at a time. We can only have one state we can be in at a time. There's two states that our nervous system is either fight or flight, sympathetic, or rest and digest, parasympathetic. And most of us are operating, even us high achievers, we get used to the to-do list and this more. And I was too, because I was addicted to the stress. Why? Because of the endorphins it was giving me.
Yeah. When it feels like you're moving forward, even if it's at a frantic pace, it's like, ugh.
Yep. And so what we're doing is, if this is so fascinating too, is when we're in that fight, flight, freeze response, is our heartbeat faster. We're not taking in as much oxygen. Our saliva glands are not as much activated in our mouth. So then our tonality even comes off a little bit more cracky, and our middle ear, which is our deep listening, gets deactivated. So it changes us on a completely deep level.
Wow. That's fascinating.
But on the other hand, when we are in that rest and digest, by learning the steps to get into that and finding ourselves to become more stable in that environment, that's what he was doing for him, was grounding and breathing and all this. That's ultimately just getting your vagus nerve, that nervous system, back on track, because that is the foundation to your health. It's
so interesting because, again, it kind of goes back to like change your mind, change your life. It seems too simple. Breathing and standing in the grass in the sunlight also seems too simple, Like we feel like it's got to be this 20-step program and like I got to take 56 pills a day. And like that's kind of what we've been trained to think. I got to drink my AG1 and like all this chaos. But really it's like it starts with like letting the sun hit your face, putting your feet in the grass, taking, thoughtful breaths, slowing down.
Well, think about it, because all of that pills and take this certain type of chemical water and blah, 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 all of that's super expensive. But if you just go get some sunlight in your eyes and just
free.
Go put your feet, it's just free.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just like we're getting pushed in every direction to buy every single freaking program and pill out there, because we're going to prove this and ours is so unique and you got to check this out. And so it's all just a manipulation within our mind. But yeah, it ultimately comes back down to it's supposed to be free.
Well, and we bought like AG1 and then my wife was reading the ingredients and it has like GMOs in it, She's like, what the fuck? Like, felt so duped, like Joe Rogan, you son of a bitch. You didn't tell us that. And so she found some other one that's natural. It's probably more expensive or whatever. But it is funny that we do feel compelled. Like then we're doing something good, because like walking outside and just being in the sun is too easy. That doesn't feel like enough.
It's too easy. It's too easy, but I will tell you it works, guys. It works.
So I'm curious, as a 37-year-old, 230-pound man, do you have an idea of how many calories I should eat in a day, or is that just like too blank of a question?
I would first say focusing on calories is only going to set you up for failure.
Ooh, hot take. So it doesn't matter then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I will show you my rundown with that, because when we're thinking of calories, what we're doing is we're just kind of shrinking ourselves to weight loss. And when we do that, you stop prioritizing the things that your body really needs. So you're a man that has testosterone and that your muscle is what's going to burn your fat.
Okay.
So if we just shift that belief system and go into now thinking, okay, muscle's going to do it for me. So what you need to do is partner up with your muscle. So we have to know that we've been losing your muscle ever since the age of 30. So you've been 7 years.
7 years losing it.
Just because you're aging.
Yeah.
And most people, when they're calorie counting, they're going to lose more of their muscle mass because they're focusing on the calorie, not about protein levels.
Sure.
So my number one step is make sure that you're eating. Every time that you are eating, there's protein in it. Snacks, meals, has to have protein.
That's probably usually true besides chips and salsa.
Even with your chips and salsa.
Like throw some meat in there, is that what you're saying?
I mean, anything. So sometimes when I go over to a friend's house and I know I'm going to have birthday cake, I go have a protein shake before I go have the birthday cake.
Okay, so you're just always putting protein in your meals.
You have to, yeah. Because that is going to help stabilize your blood sugar levels, which is your insulin.
Okay.
And it's going to also make it so that your pancreas isn't overworking. And then there's a whole other route. We'll go into like blood sugar level later. But first step is just getting protein every single time that you eat. Then, I mean, there's different ways of tracking, but I definitely do not recommend a scale that's just tracking your weight. That's not going to give you an accurate...
Weighing your food, you're saying?
No, like just weighing your body.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
We have $28 BMI scales on Amazon. I highly recommend finding out what your skeletal muscle percentage is, and that's your number one goal. Don't
That's
look at
BMI, or is that different?
Just your muscle mass percentage. So yeah, BMI is just BMI. Basically, what that means is what's the difference between like my fat and my muscle in my body, and that's my BMI. So BMI doesn't mean anything to us. Let's go a little bit deeper.
Okay.
What is your skeletal muscle percentage? Is that going up or down? If that's going down, that means you're not getting enough protein in.
Interesting. You're saying I can buy a scale on Amazon for that?
$28.
Sweet. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And then if your muscle mass not going up, get more protein in. When you get more protein in and your muscle's going up, you're going to automatically see your fat go down.
Interesting.
Stop working harder. So then people go all the time. They're like, well, what about sugar? And what about this? And what about that? And I go, well, if you follow the main rules, like my first rule is get at least every time you eat, just get protein in and try to at least get 4 to 5. That's the main goal. Okay.
4 to 5 what?
Amount times of eating in a day. 4 to 5 amounts of protein. Okay. After that, and remember, protein can come from nuts and seeds. It can be lentils. It can be, I mean, there's protein in.
You're not saying you have
spinach.
to eat chicken every time.
You do not have to eat chicken every time.
And then what about intermittent fasting? Like, do you believe that you shouldn't eat before a certain time?
I believe if you should do intermittent fasting if you are trying to work on your gut health or if you're trying to starve cancer.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But intermittent fasting came into the world to just kind of starve ourselves to weight loss.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you guys doing, you guys?
There it is. There's that F-bomb. You had a lot of F-ins. I'm glad we dropped one.
I was waiting for
You
it.
said it. You said it. So
I
was
opened the
like,
door.
As soon as he said it, I was like, okay, now I know what type of podcast
You
this
needed
is.
permission. There you go.
I love it.
Okay, good. Anyways, so it just comes down to that. And then if you eat your 1 to 2 amounts of vegetables in a day, you tell me if you want to go eat a bunch of sugar.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you won't want to because you'll be satiated.
Exactly.
What about, what are your thoughts on the carnivore diet?
I just don't follow any diets.
Like you just do this one thing, just don't believe in it.
Why? Like why like anything restriction, anything diet? Why? No, because to me, it's why not have something that we can do for the rest of our entire life?
That's true. 'Cause I'm not going to eat carnivore forever.
Yeah, if you can't do keto forever, if you can't do low carb forever, if you can't do carnivore forever, if you can't do Weight Watchers forever, then just stop.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I'm bad at forever shit anyways. I know it's going to fail. So, okay, what about alcohol? What do you think? Can I have it?
Yeah. Going back to your BMI scale, if your muscle mass is going up, who cares?
Oh, that's good news. Okay, well, that's great. So
That's
do
great
you...
news, Cody.
I know, I needed that. I got permission. I'm going to go to the liquor store right after this. I'm going to order a scale and buy some liquor.
Well, going back to your nervous system, that was number 1. So heads up, you cannot drink for your nervous system. If you drink for have fun and things like this,
Yeah.
that's okay. But if you're going to drink to numb something, then I'm gonna check,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna check you right there.
No, but I don't ever repress. I love my life.
All right, good. Making
It's just
sure.
making it better, you know?
Okay, that's okay. Make it better. That's cool. I'm okay with
Okay, so I know that you specialize in women, but if men are listening to this too, can they go through your program also?
that. Of course.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Okay, that's exciting. I feel like I'm going to have to try this.
You're already trying it. I feel like all the rules have been out.
I know, but I need you to be there to hey, you got to keep doing it by your scale.
No, you don't.
You don't. I feel like I do better with coaches. Like if I have someone who's, I already explained, I need someone who's counting on me, and then I'll do better.
That's an internal thing then.
I know. It's probably a child trauma. Dad, if you're listening, that one's on you. You did that to me, or Mom. I don't know who it was. I haven't solved that one yet.
Well, I'm just pointing it out because as a coach, that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to point out anything that you're going to think you need something when you really don't. You don't need somebody holding your hand through something.
Sure.
You have that ability and that inside of you. You just need to find it.
So when you're in that 2 to 3 months, what does it look like?
So it's a 12-level metabolism makeover. I built it that it's gamified along the entire process.
Love that.
You can only open up level 1 because I know my high achievers out there. You want to go through all the levels immediately.
Yeah.
So you just start with level 1, and it's basically just giving you all the expert advice. So it's the last program that you need.
Oh, interesting. I love that. I think obviously the bracelets is me gamifying my life, right? And I love games. I love to win. And so anyway, anytime that there's like a way to like, oh, I did it, like I need that. That excites me to keep moving forward. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I did a lot of like one-on-one, and then after working with, I probably took about 500 in one-on-one. And just really just got to understand transformation is when I said, okay, I can go ahead and just build this out into a very affordable kind of structure of what people need for it. And so that's where
And so what is the cost for your program?
it is $197 a month.
Okay. And that'd be for 3 months.
Or even 2. You just stop whenever you feel like, man, I really got what I needed out of it.
Oh, okay. So you're not committed to the 3 months if you find you only needed 2 of them.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do a special offer for our listeners. That's going to be Winning 7. What do you get for that?
They come in and they get a full assessment with me.
Okay.
So I sit them
Like
down.
one-on-one?
Yeah, one-on-one.
And what if they don't live here? Do you do it over like Zoom or Google Meet or?
Yeah, they just fill out an assessment. I meet with them and ask them some questions to kind of see just where they're at and just give them that next stepping stone that they specifically need.
Okay, that's awesome. And so if you're listening to this and you're interested, you go to danitayoung.com, put in code winning7, and then that gets you started for $7. Is that right?
Yep.
That's awesome. And then what else, anything else you want to leave to our listeners? If they've loved this episode, they want more. And we got into some good stuff and we already hit the hour mark. But if people wanted to learn more from you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, you could. My name's Danita Young. You can find me on Instagram.
Is that the link I should include then, that in your website in the show notes for people?
That'd be great.
And then I can't let you leave without answering this question, but how do you define success?
We cannot get success unless, 1, we have a plan, and 2, we are open for the pivot of the plan.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, because every plan's going to get messed up somewhere.
The only thing that stops us from success is when we are trying to control success. That means we're trying to control the unknowns. And that only thing of control is going to make us have more stress and anxiety.
And then that puts you in that nervous system that's not good.
And think about what that ripples and creates. If you're the voice of your brand, people are going to feel that in your nervous system.
Yeah.
You're a contracting energy and you're not really fully expanding. So here's my suggestion. Have your plan. But think of it as there's going to be so many pivots to your plan. And you're going to have to think in your mind, either this is an adventure, I'm going to be open, there's new opportunities, and there's way more possibilities that my brain can possibly even think of.
Yeah.
What that's going to do is create a space in your mind to allow you to expand in who you're truly meant to become.
I love that. When you think of your plan, how far out are you putting that plan?
That's a good question. Whatever feels comfortable for you. Some people like their plan in a week, they're in a month. Some people can have a 5-year plan. I think whatever feels good for you, but just have the plan.
I love that. And I love the idea of saying to yourself, like, there's things that we don't even yet know we're going to need to accomplish that we can, or things we haven't even thought of that are possibilities. And so giving yourself the grace to be able to pivot along the way to success, because we talked off camera, but you can't really arrive at success. You can get there for a moment, but then you may have some valleys and you might get back up there. It's kind of like happiness. You can't live in happiness. You can just achieve it in moments. And I think when you put so much pressure on getting somewhere and staying there, it's like you may even get there and realize like, oh, I thought I would want this and it would be awesome. It turns out I don't really care for it that much. Kind of like your bikini competition.
You're right. It's the subtleties of us being on this journey that we look back on. That was the actual happiness.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
I know that's so cliche and we don't all want to hear that, but we will always hit the mark that we want to hit. And then we'll look back and say the best part of it was
Yeah.
building of it. And the last piece I'd say here on success is you have to stop identifying, thinking that you're failing. You're just pivoting.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that with enough of a runway, whatever you thought to be as a failure, at some point, you will look back on it and be like, oh, thank goodness that happened because that got me here, you know? So it only feels like a failure in the moment, but once you're far enough away from it, oftentimes we look back and say, I think most times, oh, I'm so glad that that happened. Mm-hmm. And if you have that perspective, it makes when you're in one not feel so bad because nothing is forever. Mm-hmm. Success or failure. Well, Danita, this was awesome. Thank you so much. I love that you were able to give our listeners something tangible that they can use to jump in with you. You are a wealth of knowledge. I wish we could have even had more time because I feel like there's so many more pockets you could jump into.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful. And I love your book, Winning the Moment. That's great. And I love the gamification you're doing with your bracelets. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's got to be a game. Okay. Thank you, Danita.